They called him the Chronicler of Shadows. But no record, no manuscript, no royal decree ever mentioned his true name. What survives is only a collection of parchments, brittle and darkened with age, found deep beneath the ruins of St. Verena's Abbey in northern France. Each parchment told a story of kingdoms that never existed, wars that no historian had ever documented, and deaths that, at the time, had not yet occurred. Yet centuries later, every event inked by his trembling hand would unfold, exactly as he had described. Welcome, dear listener, to the Unveiled Scroll. If you find yourself drawn to the forgotten corners of history, remember to like, subscribe, and share, for tonight we unravel a chronicle so impossible it was erased from the memory of mankind. This is the tale of the forgotten chronicler who wrote the future's darkest night. They say he appeared during the year 1567, when the sky over Lyon burned red for 7 nights. Witnesses claimed that the moon turned the color of dried blood and the river Saône stopped flowing. In that same week, an old man cloaked in ink-stained robes walked into the cathedral's archive, requesting access to restricted manuscripts. His voice was soft, polite even, but his eyes, accounts say, were like 2 pieces of obsidian, reflecting not the present but something yet to come. He called himself Laurent du Soleil. No one knew his origin. No university or monastery held record of him. Yet within days, he was granted full custodianship of the archive. What he did next would remain a mystery for centuries. The first parchment attributed to him was titled The Fall of the White Lion. It described, in haunting detail, the assassination of a king named Alderic, forestabbed by his own son during the feast of St. Michael. But in 1567, there was no King Alderic IV. No White Lion dynasty. No such kingdom. It was dismissed as madness, the delusion of a lonely scholar lost in his own fantasies. But 153 years later, in 1720, the Kingdom of Navarre witnessed the exact event. King Alaric II, whose banner bore a white lion, was murdered by his heir during a feast on St. Michael's Day. The resemblance was too precise to be coincidence. The parchment resurfaced that same year, hidden in the vault of a collector who claimed to have bought it from a dying monk. More chilling still, the handwriting matched that of official royal records from the 1500s. The ink was dated to the exact decade Laurent had vanished. There were dozens more scrolls each, predicting disasters, fires, plagues, and revolutions that would later shape the course of Europe. Historians dismissed them as forgery, but the forensic ink tests in the 1960s confirmed otherwise. Every scroll was genuine, written long before the events took place. Who was Laurent du Soleil? A prophet? A madman? Or something far stranger, someone rewriting the very memory of time? The deeper we dive into his chronicles, the more reality itself begins to feel unstable. One of the scrolls, known as Codex Noctem, or the Book of Night, was sealed in wax bearing an insignia of 2 serpents devouring each other. Within it, a passage described the night when stars fell and men spoke backwards. For centuries, it was considered pure symbolism until the meteor storm of 1833. When survivors in France reported a phenomena scientists still can't explain. Voices whispering in reverse echo through valleys during the fall. The same phrase appeared in the codex, word for word. What unnerved scholars most wasn't what Laurent wrote, but what he crossed out. Dozens of lines were violently scratched over with black ink, as if he feared what he had seen. When ultraviolet light was applied in 1972, the hidden words emerged. It began with the ink. It ends with the ink. The archivist leading that investigation died 3 weeks later. His body found slumped over the manuscript, fingertips stained pitch black. The coroner's report concluded ink poisoning, yet the ink contained no known toxins. Only one witness, an assistant named Claudine Mercier, survived long enough to speak. Her final words, before slipping into delirium, were, "He's still writing." To this day, no one knows what she meant, but in a sealed vault beneath the Bibliothèque Nationale de France, there lies a single quill, preserved in glacis, tip eternally wet, as though dipped in ink that never dries. By 1899, Whispers of Laurentius Soliel had become a forbidden subject among European historians. The Vatican's secret archives were rumored to contain a letter from Pope Pius V, written centuries earlier, excommunicating the one who binds reality with ink. It was signed, but never delivered. Those who saw the letter said the wax seal had melted on its own, as if burned from within. Around that same time, a librarian in Vienna claimed to have discovered a hidden compartment inside a 16th-century lectern. Within it lay a small bound book of vellum, its title, barely legible, Annales Obscurae, or the Dark Annals. The first page was dated 1570, 3 years after Lawrence's supposed death, yet the ink was still fresh, shimmering faintly, as though alive. And on the final page, written in a precise, unwavering hand, were words that chilled even the most skeptical scholars. Whoever reads this becomes my witness. Whoever doubts becomes my subject. After that discovery, the librarian vanished. His apartment was found empty, his clothes folded neatly, but the walls were covered in words written backward in Latin. No one ever decoded them. But here is where it becomes impossible to dismiss his legend. In 1944, during the Nazi occupation of France, a group of soldiers stationed near Lyon reported finding an underground chamber while fortifying an old abbey. Inside, they uncovered human remains, hundreds of them each clutching fragments of parchment inked with identical handwriting. Some pages described events still decades away. The fall of Berlin, the partition of Korea, even the moon landing. Those documents were seized, and their existence officially denied. Yet a single photograph escaped censorship, showing a bone-white skull resting atop a scroll. On the scroll, barely visible, were the words, "History is not written, it is rewritten." What terrified the Allied intelligence officers most was not the content but the signature beneath. L. du Soleil, 1569. How could a man from the 1500s have written events that occurred 4 centuries later? Some believe Laurent discovered a form of temporal Incan alchemical substance that tethered the written word to the fabric of time itself. Others claim he was never human at all, but a vessel used by something ancient, something that fed on human memory and recorded its hunger as history. The ink, they say, was not ink at all but blood drawn from those whose futures were being read. In 1991, a research team from Oxford obtained permission to study the remaining fragments of the codex not under electron microscopy. The ink's composition was found to contain trace amounts of hemoglobin human, but mutated in ways no genetic sequence could explain. When the lead researcher, Dr. Evelyn Ward, attempted to replicate the compound, every recorded experiment failed, until one night, the security footage captured her entering the lab at 3:16 a.m., alone. She never left. The next morning, the glass case containing the original quill was open. On the wall behind it, someone or something had written in black, dripping letters. It began with the ink. It ends with the ink. The footage cuts out 3 seconds later. No body was ever found. The project was terminated, sealed under British national security protocols. But there's one final entry, discovered only recently, in a private collection auctioned anonymously in Prague. The fragment bore a chilling date 2024 and a single line written in the same hand that penned the first prophecy in 1567. Tonight, the one who listens becomes the next chronicler. And now, as you hear these words, as the echo of Lawrence's ink seeps into your memory, you must ask yourself how much of what we call history is merely what we've been allowed to remember. Perhaps time does not move forward at all. Perhaps it circles endlessly around the same ink-stained hands. For all we know, Laurent du Soleil still writes in the margins of our reality, in the forgotten corners of our dreams. And maybe, just maybe, you've already read his next page. Thank you for watching The Unveiled Scroll. If this tale stirred something within you, leave a like, share it with those who dare to question the past, and subscribe to uncover the next veil of hidden truth. Until then, keep your candles close, your ink dry, and your mind open for some stories were never meant to be remembered. Yet somehow, they always return.